How's it going, everyone? I'm Tanya and this is Growing Groceries. And today I'm going to be going over chicken feed and everything you need to know about it. When it comes to chicken feed, there are an unnecessary and overwhelming number of options. And if you read the product bag, they all claim to be the ideal nutritional blend for a healthy flock. So what's the right choice? What percentage of protein do chickens really need? Well, that depends on several factors and it changes throughout the course of your chicken's life. It may seem complicated, but it's really not. And I'm gonna break it all down for you. So, for starters, day-old chicks to about 6 to 8 weeks of age, your chicks need Chick Starter Crumble. It's a high protein mix that's formulated specifically for those fast-growing little fluff balls. They need it to be in crumble form because they can't process pellets yet. You'll need to choose between medicated and unmedicated. And that's one of those hot button topics everybody has an opinion about. I'm just gonna start off by saying I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not telling you what you need to do with your flock, but I'm telling you what I did. The medicated variety is designed to help your chick build up an immunity to coccidiosis, which is an intestinal parasite. If your chicks are vaccinated against coccidiosis already, then non-medicated would be the way to go. Some argue that if the chick breeders kept clean and the chicks are isolated from other birds, then medicated feed may not be necessary regardless of whether the chick is vaccinated. However, for me and my flock, I chose to use medicated feed for the first 2 to 4 weeks just to ensure that their little bodies had a chance to build up an immunity. After that, I did switch to unmedicated. The downside with the medicated feed is that it basically blocks the absorption of vitamin B1, which is also important for the chick. The reason it blocks it is because that is what the parasite needs to multiply and spread. So blocking it stops the parasite from spreading throughout your flock and from multiplying within your chick, which is important, obviously. The chick will eventually build her own immune system or his own immune system and immunities to coccidiosis, but it takes a while. So just to give them a little bit of time for their immune system to build up, I felt like it was worth using the medicated for a little while. But again, that was with my first chicks. They were not vaccinated. The second time I got chicks, they were vaccinated, so I did not use medicated at all. Sorry about the wind. So I should point out that the medicated feed is not a cure for coccidiosis though, just so you're aware. So what about after that? Well, after 6 to 8 weeks and all the way through until about 18 to 20 weeks, your pullets should get grower feed. This is when I would start transitioning them to pellets instead of crumble because it's significantly less wasteful. Grower feed has a bit less protein than starter feed and less calcium than layer feed because they don't need it yet. When they start laying eggs at about 18 to 20 weeks, that's when you'll want to switch your hens to layer feed. Again, I would recommend pellets over crumble. The layer feed has more calcium for producing eggshells and again, a bit less protein since at that point, they're full grown and they don't need quite as much. If you have a rooster, you can switch them to a grower feed, from a grower feed to a maintainer feed or an all flock at about 16 to 18 weeks when they're full grown. Roosters do not need the same amount of calcium as hens and feeding them the same layer pellets as you would feed your hens could lead to potential health problems, such as kidney stones, all the way to kidney and liver failure. So what should you do if you have a mixed flock like mine? Well, you can either feed them separately, but honestly, who's got time for that? Or you can feed them all a maintainer feed, such as all flock pellets, and then supplement the hen's diet with crushed egg shells and crushed oyster shells. And that's what I do. I prefer to use their own eggshells and feed them back to them as much as possible, but I do use oyster shells sometimes. It's worked really well for us. Fonzie has no problems because he's getting all flock. The ladies have had no issues. It is important to make sure that you are getting constant access, or they are getting constant access to the calcium though, because if they don't get enough, they can start laying soft-shelled eggs, which isn't only inconvenient and frustrating when you go to collect an egg and it's broken in the nesting box, but it's also dangerous for your hens because an egg can break before they lay it, which can lead to infections and potential even death. There is one time of year that you'll also want to mix things up a little bit, and that's during the molt. When they're molting, they're losing all of their feathers and their bodies are trying to grow new feathers. So you'll notice they stop laying eggs very often. You might get, like, if you have a flock of like 9 hens, you might get 1 egg a day, maybe 2, maybe none. So, you know, that part sucks, but it's because their bodies are busy producing the feathers. So during that time of year, you want to up the protein because they need more. You can supplement what they're already eating, or with high protein treats like eggs or meats, or you can change out their feed to something higher in protein, like a broiler feeder. A broiler feed is made for meat birds, so you can do that for a little bit. Another thing that's high in protein you could do is soldier fly larva. That's a good one. So just keep that in mind. When they're molting, when you see feathers everywhere and no eggs in the nesting box, they probably need a little extra protein. If you are raising meat birds, it is a little different, such as broilers. They will eat a chick starter until about 4 to 6 weeks, and then you can switch them over to a broiler feeder or grower feed, and they'll just stay on that until they're ready for processing. As for chicken treats, I suggest the 90-10 rule, which is 90% of their diet should be their balanced all flock pellets and oyster shells and grit, always available. And then the other 10% is treats. Treats I like to use is cracked corn in the winter, because cracked corn is high in carbs, so it helps them stay warmer. And then there's sunflower seeds, specifically black oil sunflower seeds. They're really cheap. You could get a big bag of them. They're usually for like wild bird feeders, but I use those as a treat for the hens and Fonzie, and they love them. Black soldier fly larva, which is what I usually use to get them back in their coop or run if they've escaped. If they're hungry, they'll go for it. If they're not, then they'll have fun in the woods until I can get them out. Pumpkins are great, especially in the fall. I always do pumpkins. It's a good supplemental treat for them that can help prevent worms. I have a whole video on that. It is not a treatment for worms. Check out the video for more information, but pumpkins are a good treat though. Table scraps. They get table scraps just about every day. Whatever is left over that didn't get ate, with a few exceptions that I'm about to go over. And then grubs from the garden. Garden's right there, so anytime I find grubs, goes right through the fence to the chickens, and they love that. And then weeds such as dandelions, same thing, from the garden to the coop or from the yard to the coop. The kids love to collect them and give them to the chickens as a treat. So a few things the chickens should not eat: onions, chocolate, avocado skins, avocado pits, raw or dried beans, rhubarb, and any plant in the nightshade family. Ripe tomatoes are fine, but green tomatoes, or the plants that they came from, are a big no-go. And then obviously anything that's spoiled or moldy. If you wouldn't want to eat it, why give it to the chickens, you know? Because they're going to turn it into eggs that you're going to eat. So that really wouldn't make any sense, right? So I hope this was helpful information for someone. I know the amount of information out there is overwhelming. If you want to know where I got any of my information from, I posted multiple articles down in the description below that talk about it, as well as one about the difference between medicated versus non-medicated for chick starter. So feel free to check that out and see what you think. And like I said, I mean, everyone's got different opinions. This is what I do, is what I've done, and it has worked out well for us. But thank you for watching. Pretty soon, probably next week, I'm gonna be doing a video where I have multiple types of the most popular chicken food that I find at the farmers stores that I go to, which is usually Tractor Supply or Rural King. I'm gonna have multiple set up and dishes, and then I'm gonna do a time-lapse video just to see what the chickens like the most. I'm only gonna use feeds that I feel like are complete, balanced, that I would trust, because whatever they like the most is probably what I'm just gonna buy from now on. And then I'll also show you in that video what I am currently using, by the end of the video, what I'm going to continue to use or switch to. So if that sounds interesting, hit the subscribe button below, and when that video comes out, it should pop up on your home screen and you'll be able to check it out. So thanks again, and God bless. Bye.